Dragonflight Season 1 is here, and in this season, we are going to be tested in very unusual ways. This will be the first season where we weren't able to practice the Mythic Plus dungeons in Mythic Zero the weeks leading up to it. And as such, the guides I'm going to be making over the next few weeks are going to be particularly important for those, especially who have not done those dungeons in a very long time. The goal of these guides are to offer in-depth explanations about very specific topics in dungeons, and as such, I will rely on you guys offering things that you might need elaboration on, things that you see that you would like my thoughts on, or just interesting things in general that I can dive into. Today, though, we are going to start the series with probably a skip that some of you guys might already know about, but one that is going to be absolutely crucial. If you have pulled the trash that we are going to show you how to skip today, you would know this is some of the least efficient trash in any of the Mythic Plus dungeons that we're going to have in Season 1. Also has the potential to be extremely dangerous and mechanically intensive. I have footage explaining it, so let's just let that roll right now. So just land up at front here where all these mobs are fighting. You won't really get in combat with anything. And then I'll show you how to get by every single mob up here so we don't have to pull any of it. So in order to get by these two guys, there's this little broken part of this fence over here that we can hop over. If you have trouble getting over it, you can just ride on your mount real quick, but otherwise you can just hop up here. And then the next thing we're going to do is go hard to the right here. So there's this path, and we obviously need to make sure we don't get too close to it, but at this point it should be perfect to just go right around it to the right. So we skip that and the group guarding the gate by just hugging the right here. And then up and around this mountain. And then there's another patrol coming up the road, so we need to cross in front of it or behind it as fast as we can. And then we're going to go just right of this build, or just left of this, I guess right of the building is safer. And then through this little building here. And then we're on to the last part. Barring anything absurd, these two you absolutely will not be pulling in Mythic Plus. Knockout Defenders, these mobs are certainly a no-go, and the problem with this trash is even though it looks like it's kind of high volume, it's just really hard to pull any of this together. Now, there are some pitfalls that you should be aware of and things that might come into play when we're talking Mythic Plus. I have not actually tried to skip this with an Invis Pop, but you absolutely should try to not do that because having a potion for the last boss is going to be really important. But if you did absolutely have to use one, here is why you would. You can get here and this pat will actually be right in the middle here. And if that happens, it's extremely difficult to skip. It is actually possible if it extends all the way down to about here-ish that you can actually just go around to the left and then cut back around to the right. But this gets a lot harder. This is really the ideal case. But the thing is, they would have to come all the way down to the middle here. Like this is extending to probably like 75% of its patrol route for that to be an issue there. And I think honestly, even just waiting like 15-20 seconds for it to pat back up the other direction is still a better choice than actually trying to use an Invispot to skip any part of this. Now, I do get stuck on these trees here, so I just want to point that out, that you got to make sure you're jumping accurately, and I think some races will have more trouble than others. But once you're over the hill, it's important to notice what's actually happening on this side of this fence. Again, we have another patrol here, and this is the exact same situation we just had on the previous one. Really cannot afford to aggro this pack, but if it's like all the way up here, you're in serious trouble, and there's not a lot of options you can do here because there are these two mobs that are over here. I have tried to kind of skirt the edge and go in between both of these packs, but it's extremely difficult to not aggro this pack. So at this point, if you are seriously in a bind for time and this pad has now put you in a position where you cannot skip it, yeah, I think the choice is to just grab these two mobs and just bring them down, especially if you have something like a Death Grip or something like that. Or you could even just straight up CC them. Yeah, obviously, Demon Hunters, we're going to see a ton of those this season, so there's a couple ways around this that, again, should not require an Invispot, but that's another thing to be concerned with. Now, in the footage, you actually hear me kind of waffle on which direction is the safest way to go by this. This like little hut here, you can actually go left or right here, and I've seen groups fail both sides, okay? Going left is obviously the more static way to do it, but it does seem like this mob here will aggro pretty easily if you do not hug super hard here. So I think in your average day-to-day pug, it is going to be safer to go to the right here. The problem is if this mob in this pat is about even with this, then that also will aggro. So yet again, we have a little bit of a convolution here where we have to be very clear on where these patrols are actually lining up. But I think again, 9 times out of 10, you're going to come to this area and it's going to be very clear how you get past this. There won't be much talk needed. And again, I do not think anybody is going to be pulling this simply because like this whole area just gives a ton of count to, and skipping stuff in some of the other areas, I really can't advise. I don't know exactly what routes are going to look like, but I am going to be making a video on that tomorrow. So stay tuned and we will take a deep dive into the routing as well that I expect to see unfold in season 1. But anyway, there is the reality reality here that maybe these mobs can also be skipped. I do not believe that there is any reason that you cannot skip them, but I don't think that is going to be something most groups are going to want to do. Obviously, the last boss can probably just be tanked against the back wall there, but you are running the risk of aggroing these and probably disbanding the key over that happening. So we will see what actually plays out here. So let me know what you guys think about all of this, especially all of the trash in this area. What your thoughts are in this dungeon in general. Do you think people are going to try to just fill count in the easier areas? If you have any questions or anything that you've seen from the Mythic Zeros that you do want me to take a look at, let me know. Otherwise, I can anticipate the next video in this series being something with the old dungeons, because especially some of them, they have undergone a lot of changes, and I believe that is going to be something that we do really need to dive deeply into this season to help people get caught up. If you have any questions like that ahead of that, just please let me know. Otherwise, stay tuned. There's going to be a video on my initial routes coming for season 1 tomorrow, and I'm very much looking forward to seeing you guys on the live stream this week. We're going to be streaming a lot of keys, so thank you for watching. We will see you guys there.